Hello, Tungsten Miner here. My next Let's Play video for Astra is going to feature setting up a moon base. Now, I've already built my rocket, as you can see behind me, and my launch pad and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I'll get around to. But I actually haven't built a moon base yet. So I'm going to capture some video as I go along and explain the process as I do. And when I'm done, you'll get to see the final result, which I don't even know what it's going to be yet. So I'm going to cut things off here, and I'll be back in a moment once I've made some more progress. Okay, back again. As you can see, I have changed. I am now wearing my spacesuit. So if we take a peek here in my inventory, we can see I've got my space boots, leggings, chest pieces. These things are not cheap to make. A lot of iron, a lot of wool, different kind of recipes. But none of them require anything like super exotic. You know, iron and wool is kind of what you're expecting here, iron plates and so on. However, you can see in the top left-hand corner of my screen, I've actually got a bunch of other things installed here. Two canisters, both of which are filled with oxygen, so you can look just above the HUD in the bottom center of my screen and see that I've already got that filled up. I've got some bionic legs installed, which helps me move just a little bit faster. And I've got some boots installed that give me kind of a feather fall effect. So it doesn't matter how far I fall, I'm not going to hurt myself. Which actually kind of matters on the moon because 1/6 gravity, right? And there's a lot of cliffs and escarpments and all sorts of other things to fall off of that might actually give you some problems. I have also packed a bag. So here in my wearable backpacks, I brought along what I think is going to be enough to cover me to build a moon base. So I've made a bunch of white concrete, some white stained glass, chest. I've got the one probe. This kind of works like what am I looking at, except you got to hold it in your hand to use it. I mixed up a bunch of laboratory blocks from the Chisel mod. These things can be used in a lot of different patterns, so this is kind of more for decoration than anything else. Of course, got to bring along a chisel. The one I have is almost broke, so I'm going to bring two of them. This fuel drum is actually not full of fuel, it's full of oxygen. Fuel drums are from the vehicles mod, but they can contain whatever liquid you want. So this is my spare oxygen supply. There's about 40 buckets in here. I've got a bunch in my spacesuit, so if I find that I'm going through it too quickly, all I really need to do is hop on the rocket and leave again. So hopefully I'll have enough in my suit to be able to build enough of the base where I'll be able to then start using the base's oxygen out of this drum. To that effect, I've brought a fluid duct so I can bring things out of this drum. The drums don't automatically push things out, so I needed to bring a servo to be able to extract the oxygen. And I have a gas charge pad so I can recharge my suit, if nothing else. I also brought along an oxygen vent, which will fill the space. So long as it's enclosed and not open to vacuum, I should be able to fill up all of the moon base within a 32 block radius with oxygen. This goes through oxygen pretty quickly, though, so you can build yourself some CO2 scrubbers and provide them with carbon bricks to filter CO2 out of the atmosphere. In real terms, what this kind of does is it makes it so that instead of venting air and then backfilling with pure oxygen, you're scrubbing the CO2 out of the atmosphere you have. So you're consuming oxygen much more slowly at the cost of taking a little bit of extra power. So, brought myself an energy cell, which has 2 million RF in it. This should last me for a good long while. Some flux ducts to be able to move power back and forth. And I made a solar generator, which basically is some gold plates and dust and one of these structure blocks, which is itself just iron rods and plates. And then you combine that together with a battery, so those are tin plates and an iron rod, and finally a power plug, which is just made from some more batteries and a machine structure block. So that gets you this. There's not a lot of documentation on the website about what kind of power generation you're going to get. It just says a few RF per tick. So I don't really know how much this is going to give me and whether or not it's more than the CO2 scrubber and the oxygen vent are going to provide. That's why I'm bringing so much extra power. If I notice that this is starting to deplete rapidly, then I just get back on my rocket and come back home. And I'll know to bring a few more. And And then finally, some cobblestone blocks. Maybe this is for decoration. Stairs, if I happen to find I need them. A rotary lever to be able to get in and out of my airlocks. That reminds me, I need to bring some more of those, probably some more of that too, so I'll take a little trip, grab those. Here's a small airlock door so I can get in and out. Some lights. And then finally, I brought a crafting table just in case I need to make something while I'm up there. I can't think of what. Won't have a lot of materials, but hopefully I don't need it. A wrench to be able to handle all my pipes. An empty, unused waypoint compass, which I will set to be the center of my base so that as I wander around on the moon, I can always find my way back again. And then an antique atlas. This is the same one I use here at home. I'm hoping it works in another dimension. I really don't know what to expect, so we'll find out. And then finally a depth meter, so that as I'm wandering around the surface and mining below the surface, I'll have some notion of where I am. That reminds me, I should probably bring a regular compass too, just so I have my full coordinates. So I'm going to go off, gather all those extra things, and get ready to go. Probably should get out of the rain, shouldn't I? Be back in a minute. Okay, back again. It's still raining. Didn't take me very long to get everything all together here. I figured I might start by talking about this rocket a little bit. It doesn't look like what you'd normally think of as a rocket. If you've seen any footage of the Apollo program or the recent SpaceX launches, it's a little more ghetto than that. What we're dealing with is actually a multi-block structure. So these are launch pad blocks here on the bottom. This is just plain old concrete, and this is factory blocks from Chisel for decoration. These are structure blocks, and you can see it goes deep into the concrete. So it actually starts at the same level as my launch pad here. And then I just built a bunch of them and stacked them all on top of each other. That's the tallest rocket that I'll be able to make. And of course, if I want to make a taller rocket, I just make more structure blocks and throw them on top there. On the launch pad itself, I had to build these engines, and we can take a look at those. That's these guys right here. So you're going to need to find yourself some titanium. If you're playing in Ad Astra, you'll find this underneath in the rock layer under the sand of beaches, and then some steel. So actually, by the time you've found the titanium, it's actually not that hard to make, not a lot of materials. But each of these is going to produce thrust to get us off the ground, and each of them is going to consume fuel. So we've got our fuel tanks here. So we can look at our tanks, and this requires a bit more steel, steel rods, steel plates. You're going to make a lot of steel rods over the course of doing your advanced rocketry stuff. So highly recommended to make the lathe. It doesn't seem like it'll be worthwhile when you are first starting out, but trust me, it is. So I made a total of 9 tanks here and 3 different rocket engines. On the back here, just for decoration, I have a steel structure block. This is a satellite bay because, of course, this is the same rocket I've been using to do asteroid missions and other kinds of things. This is a guidance computer, which you need to be able to program where it is you're off to. So I'm going to grab my planet chip, which is currently programmed for Earth, but no big deal, we can change that. And I'm going to toss that, whoops, not in the satellite bay, in the guidance computer. And then this tiny little sliver up here is a seat. That's right, you just get to sit right on top of the rocket. Now, if you want to, you can build something that looks a lot more like a regular rocket, but every single block you have here has mass. And so you pay in fuel for carrying that mass up into orbit. Which is to say, let's keep it simple and not make a whole lot of crazy decorations. So I'm going to grab my pack here, which I think has everything in it. I've got my suit on, I've got oxygen, got my chip in there. So now what I need is a rocket. This, of course, is just a collection of blocks. The way I turn it into a proper rocket is with this machine here, the rocket builder. So I'm going to hit scan, and it starts off at the top of my assembly tower there, and it's going to go down, and it's looking for all of the different blocks that are within the area of this launch pad. And then it's going to tell me I can produce 30 newtons of thrust, so that's 10 newtons per engine. Sounds good. Weight is 16 newtons, so I've got a little more than half of my thrust capability, which is actually pretty decent. I'm going to use 3 millibuckets per second of fuel as I'm going up, which you can see is above this white line, which means that's good. So I'm able to get into orbit and back again. And I'm going to create an acceleration of 0.03 meters per second squared, which means I can get off the planet. So anything that's above this white line is good, which means I am clear for liftoff. This rocket works. And of course, I've built this rocket and used it a bunch of times already, so I kind of know what's going on. Trust me, it took me a couple of tries to get this right, so you'll experiment too. I found that this generally works pretty well, so 9 tanks, 3 engines, and 4 blocks of cargo, if you want to think of it that way, of just mass that's being lifted off the planet. So now I'm going to switch over and say build, and it's going to repeat the process with red bars this time. And here, it's going to take this multi-block, destroy all the blocks, and replace it with what is effectively like a boat. It's a vehicle, it's a horse, it's whatever you want to think of it. But now you see it moved it, it's centered, and it's no longer actually blocks. I still can't walk through it, but you notice I can't get through that corner either. So it's actually created a new entity out of this thing. This little faint line that we can see here is actually a connection between the fueling station here and the rocket. If you're hearing thunder in the background, it's because I'm recording during a thunderstorm, a real-life thunderstorm. And now this has gone away because, of course, there's not a multi-block structure. The build is complete, and I'm ready to go. So I'm just going to right-click on the rocket, and it sits me right on top here. I'm going to use my F8 key to select a destination. So we've got not too many places I can go here, to be honest. Oh, you know what I forgot? A source of light. Let me jump off the rocket here. So left shift to just jump down. And I'm going to zoom back over to my workshop here. So on the moon, of course, you can put down torches, but that requires a flame. And a flame doesn't work too well in a vacuum. So I'm going to need to bring something other than a regular torch. And I had thought I had made myself some thermite torches, which I must have stuck somewhere else. Let me dig around a bit here. Ah, perfect. So we got some thermite torches. Now back to the launch pad. Okay, so I'm going to toss these in my backpack so we'll have a nice source of light when we get to the moon. Now, we're going to go back in here, select destination, moon. Select, ready to take off. Don't know where we're going to land. It's just kind of picks a random spot for you. But if I hit space, we're going to travel. So let's go. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. The animation is a little jerky, despite this being a pretty decent computer and the server's right next door, so not much to do about that, I'm afraid. So as we climb higher and higher, of course, the world disappears into the void, and we can start to see the stars. Now, I haven't figured out whether or not one can tell whether you're going to land on the light side of the moon or the dark side of the moon. I was kind of hoping that there'd be an easy way to tell, but I haven't figured that out yet. Okay, so here we are. We're descending. I'm going to hit space to descend. And yeah, things get a little wild. I think we might just wind up landing directly on the planet without any animation in between here. All right, so we can see in the top left, my altitude is coming down, my velocity is very, very negative, and I've got just over half my fuel left, which is good. And even better, I'm taking off from a body which has very weak gravity, so you don't use nearly so much fuel. So here we are, almost down. Unfortunately, we don't get to see the animation. Yep. Okay, so I just need to hold down shift to hop off the rocket here. All right, I'm going to get this straightened out. I will be back momentarily. Okay, here we are. All I had to do was log off the server and log back on again. Apparently, things got a little laggy. Okay, so here we are on the surface of the moon. I am still sitting on top of my rocket. And as we look around, we can see the lunar landscape off in all directions. Very fortunately, we landed during the lunar daytime. Looks like it's about lunar noon, which means we've got roughly a week to finish what we're doing. You can see I've been here before because I made this big cobblestone obelisk. That was actually so that I didn't get lost. The first time I came, I kind of forgot to bring anything to help me orient myself. Whoops, not that button. That button. Okay, so here we are. Now, obviously, I've landed back. There's no markers. There's no nothing going on here. This is just where I happened to land the first time. So my rocket keeps coming back to the same place. I'm actually going to tear down this obelisk. Almost. Because I actually don't need it anymore. I'm going to build a lunar base, which will serve the same function. And this time, I actually did bring a compass and some other things to help me orient myself a little better. So you can see the blocks when they break just kind of float off. So they've done a pretty good job at simulating lunar gravity here. All right, clean up my mess, get a few torches. Okay, this little slot in the ground is actually the beginnings of a mine that I started last time I was here. I wound up not really finishing it, but we'll get there. Okay, so now I'm going to want to make a lunar base, probably somewhere in the plains here, probably not too far from my rocket. I think what I will do is just give myself a little room. I'll go with 9 by 9 as a starting point here. I don't really know how much room I'm going to need. My imagination says that this lunar base is really just a place to come back to once I've decided I need to replenish my oxygen supply, or I've finished exploring the surface, or whatever. The Advanced Rocketry mod does provide a space elevator, so at some point I will probably build one of those, but I believe that needs an open view of the sky, as you might imagine, and so I probably don't want to try and build that in here, so I don't need to leave room for it. Let's see, I think I will leave this as we've got it here. And maybe I'll grab some white concrete. Probably kind of silly taking white moon dust and replacing it with white concrete, but hey, that's what we'll start with here. Actually, plain white concrete, maybe not the best choice. I did bring a chisel, so I think what I might wind up doing is using some chisel pattern here. All right, let's grab that out. $63. Why do I only have 63? That's why. Okay, so let's see. Pick a pattern. I think I will go with maybe we'll grab that. Yeah, that's inconvenient. So concrete is one of the blocks that we have in the road mod, which makes it so you move faster over concrete, which is actually kind of not what I was hoping for here. Yeah, we need some more concrete. And I had picked braid before, wherever that is. Okay, got my braid here. All right, now, so we've got a basic floor. Maybe we'll go with some of those laboratory blocks for some sides here. Let's see, medium tiles. Dotted panel, sure. That's interesting. Huh. I would have expected those to join up, just like the other ones did, but apparently not. Okay, so we've got those. We're going to need to have some kind of airlock here. So let's grab some airlock doors. And maybe we'll put these, we'll probably want some floor here. I don't have a good sense of how big this really needs to be, but I do know that we're going to need to have the door here and a door here, and we're going to need to have these be solid blocks. So that we don't have all of the air escape. Nope. Let's put that here. Okay. That works. And we'll grab some little steps. Okay, that's good. Now, maybe we'll grab some different concrete blocks here. Yeah, getting confusing with all this white stuff here. And we'll just grab some of these wide bricks. This is kind of inconvenient. All right. And then I think we'll just roof this over here. Of course. Okay, so wide bricks. And we've got a little bit of a start. Okay, I'm going to keep going with this, and we'll see what I wind up with. And I will be back once I've filled in at least a shell, and then we'll start talking about equipment. So be right back. Okay, here I am. Obviously, I changed things around just a touch, so I'm using laboratory blocks and just the cobblestone kind of reinforced concrete look that I use for the base back at home. And concrete floor, the little steps, airlock doors. These guys work. Little lever to open that up, little lever to open the next one up. I wish I could make those slower. I'll have to figure that out. It's hard to get out the door in time. And then there's my rocket, so tiny little moon base. The next thing to do, of course, is to get some oxygen and power and all those other good things going. So if I can get back in here, good. Let's pull out some of the rest of the stuff that I'm going to need. All right, so I've got oxygen, fluid ducts, power. Gonna need what else? What else? CO2 scrubbers, oxygen vent, gas charge pad. Gonna need this and that. I think that is everything for now. Okay, so, and of course I'd be wrong. Need the wrench. All right, now let's think about where we're gonna put all this stuff, because I'm gonna be coming, going here. Probably I'll want it over here. I'm probably going to lay out my power to go outside to that solar generator. Maybe that'll be on the roof, actually. It's not a bad idea. Maybe that's where that goes. And then power comes down from the ceiling. That could work. All right, let's see here. Because then I could have the energy cell as part of the roof. Yeah, that actually might work really, really well. So I need to place this in such a way that the face is that way. That way I can send power down through the bottom. So that would be that. And I should be able to just have my oxygen vent here. CO2 scrubbers on either side. Drop you there. So these are the kind of consumables. Then my oxygen tank just underneath. And a fluid duct. And servo, which I'm just going to make always active. And I think we're good. Oxygen trace. Not sure what that does. Well, I can hear oxygen. I think I need to fix my sound here. Yeah. So if we listen, we should be able to hear that too. So I should be able to do this. Hey, look at that. So now we have a base with actual oxygen in it. And that's consuming oxygen pretty fast, actually. Can't say I'm super pleased with that. Because that's 40 buckets worth of oxygen, and it's going through that pretty quickly, even with my CO2 scrubbers. Not sure what that does. Doesn't change how fast it comes down. Well, I guess I'll have to do some homework and figure out what the deal is there. The one problem I just discovered here is that I can't actually look at that energy cell now, and therefore I don't have any idea how much power is in there. So probably a good time to go outside and take a peek at that. Can also see the sun is getting low, so it looks like the modeling of the lunar day is not quite accurate. But let's go peek outside here. All right. Okay, so that's pretty acceptable. Not too fast at all. Let's grab our solar panel. And we'll just drop that on the roof here. Collecting 1 RF per tick. Well, that answers that question. Okay. So we're going to allow blue as input. Okay, that's beautiful. It looks like our 1 solar generator balances our power needs. Although the sun's going down, so there's a pretty good chance that's not going to continue to be true. Interesting. Probably a good time to put up some lighting. So I brought along a couple of different options here. I think what what I will do, put these on the corners. So we've got some exterior lighting. And let's head back inside. And we'll put these up on the insides. All right, well, yeah, that's still creeping down, as you'd expect. I'm surprised, though, because there's no one consuming the oxygen. So it looks like this just uses it up regardless. So what I might want to do, I didn't bring any more switches or buttons or anything, but I might set something up so we have a redstone signal required for this. All right, well, I think this is a good place to end the video. We have a functional moon base. We've got some oxygen in a tank. We've got a little refuge here. In the future, I'm sure we'll expand this to include some more stuff, but we've got a functioning airlock, and we've got some power generation up on the roof. So I think we're in pretty good shape. So next time, I will probably do some exploring, and we can talk about mining on the moon. That's it for now. Talk to you later.